It's Wednesday, so you know what that means. Weekly reads and rankings from AJ Black of Locked on Boston College. We got to know, I'm pretty confident here about who is the top team, but who is the worst team right now in the ACC. It's getting pretty much to be a close race between two, but we'll find out more from Mr. Black.
You are Locked On ACC, your daily podcast on the Atlantic Coast Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to today's edition of Locked On ACC. I'm your host, Candace Cooper, joined by AJ Black of Locked on Boston College. Each and every week, we bring you some great content when it comes to weekly reads and rankings. On Wednesday's show, we look at your YouTube comments. We talk about them, as well as having conversations around who are the top 5 best and worst teams around the ACC. AJ, thank you so much for joining us. How's it going?
Hey, I'm doing great, Candace. It is another great weekend of ACC football. I don't have any BC games to set me off, so I'm ready to talk other teams at this point.
No doubt about it. Honestly, I will say they gave it a good go, the good old college try when it came to Clemson last weekend. I will give you that. I was very much emotionally invested into that game just by presentation, all the pomp and circumstance. It really was a great game in theory, but just not so much an execution for the Eagles.
They had their chances. I mean, they could have put some points up at different points. I mean, obviously Clemson was a better team, but they could have made it even closer if they could have executed it. If they could have executed at different points, but they just couldn't. And Clemson was, they exerted themselves much more in the second half and just put that game away.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, let's start with the 5 teams that are struggling right now, but then we'll get into some comments and then end with our 5 best teams. So top 5 who struggle, who aren't the best. Who is the 5th team in the conference right now who could use some work?
I had to put number 5. The worst team in the conference has to be not Georgia Tech. Sorry, UVA. Gosh, I'm just so programmed to say Georgia Tech at this point that I had to go with UVA. And BetOnline had a line last week. I have to say that when I heard Malik Cunningham was not going to play, I was hitting that money line on UVA. And 5 minutes into that game, I went, that was the dumbest bet I've ever made in my life. Because Louisville just housed them just a week after BC made Louisville look bad. Doman, he looked good. And now, Louisville fans are talking about him being their starting quarterback. I don't know. I think everyone expected UVA to take a little step back this year, but it is such a rebuilding year that I just didn't expect. I still go back that I thought Brennan Armstrong would be one of the best quarterbacks in this conference. And he is just, he can't do it on his own. He just can't. And it just shows you how, and we'll get to another team, the one I'm talking about, that when you don't have a good offensive line, how impactful that can be to the overall flow of a team and how much it can damage a team's offense. I mean, really, Brennan Armstrong last year looked like one of the top 5, 6, 7 quarterbacks in the country.
Yeah.
This year, he's not even in the conversation, top 10. Not even in the conversation.
Yeah, not even. He's arguably one of the worst in the conference, and that's saying something considering how much this league, and we talk about ACC here, is such an ACC prone one. But I would have never guessed that we'd be having more conversations around Riley Leonard, Drake May, even Keaton Slovis in terms of just being able to execute and figure out how to win. Brennan Armstrong's not doing it. So I hear you on that front. Number 4.
All right. Number 4 for me is going to be, I'm going to go with Louisville here.
Okay.
They beat UVA, so it was a battle of 2 of the teams I think are at the bottom.
Yeah.
I look at their schedule and they've got they've got coming up Pitt, going to be a tough game. Wake Forest, tough game. James Madison, tough game.
Yeah.
James Madison's playing really well. They got a really good defense. Clemson, NC State, and Kentucky. There's a possibility Louisville just loses straight out. There's always that possibility. And now their fans are turned on Malik Cunningham, as I just said. which is
It's crazy
because he's
Yeah.
he was the entire personality of that team up until 3 weeks ago. And
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think that when you say that, it's just wild to me just how the fan bases are. You have one person who's serviceable as a backup, be able to deliver, and now it's like you forget everything that your quarterback did for you. Like when I think about the Dallas Cowboys and Cooper Rush,
Yep.
and how it's like,
Yep.
oh well, Dak, we don't need him. Like screw him. This is an actual competition, and of course, Jerry Jones hypes it up and plays it up for the media, sure, but just the idea of you don't pay people millions plus. You don't pay guys, or you don't have guys at the helm being QB1 for no reason. And just to have a couple of good games where they survive, some of them, like literal survival, just getting by, now it's like, oh, they're the best things to slice bread.
So, you don't make that change off of a team by beating a team that had one of the worst defenses in the country last year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Malik Cunningham, yeah, he went through a little bit of a struggle here, but you can argue that if he stayed healthy against BC, Louisville would have won that game.
Yeah.
Because Dolman came in and he stunk. And then he goes on and gets hot against UVA, and it's like all of a sudden
everybody can get hot against UVA. Can we keep it honest?
And as you were just saying, I being a New England person, I'm rubbing my chin about Bailey Zappi right now.
Yeah.
But once a writer that I used to write with, who writes for BCEagles.com right now, once told me the sexiest player on the team is the backup quarterback, because everyone thinks that their limit is limitless compared to what you've seen, because you don't know what they can do and what they can't do.
Mm-hmm.
It's always a word of warning to not go with that gut feeling, especially when you got Malik Cunningham. I mean, like, he's going to give you the best position to win. I'm just sorry. He is.
Yeah. My favorite backup quarterback in the history of backup quarterbacks would be Chase Daniel. I think that man has made so much money doing just the bare minimum. Like, that's the way to go, bro. If you're not going to be a coach who gets fired and gets, $40 million that you're due, like, you might as well be a really good quarterback that just does just enough to stay in the game, but not so much to be the leader.
Yep.
Full on, not to get all the criticism. No doubt. All right, number 3.
I'm gonna go with the Hurricanes.
Okay.
And
yeah.
For all of you Hurricane fans, who I know I have my haters out there that don't agree with my Miami prognostications, and that's okay. They lost 27-24 with Tyler Van Dyke throwing for roughly 800 yards. And I still think they're going to be okay. I mean, they're going to play Virginia Tech this week. It's a big issue if they lose that game. I'm going to put that out there right now. But I'm putting them lower because it's just been disappointing to see where they're at. You know what I mean? Like, the expectations, when you have a quarterback that good, you've brought in all those transfer portal players, and you are now 2-3. Sorry, folks, that's a disappointing season right now. And the Mario Cristobal buzz is starting to wane, but folks have said it, and I know folks in our comment section have said it. Like, I think it's fair to say that he needs a little time, like, to build his program and to get things going. And it's easy to fall in love with what they have, but they're at what they're at. They're 2-3 right now.
Yeah, I said on yesterday's show that I think that Mario Cristobal might not be all up to snuff, and I don't think it's because of the quarterback situation. I just think when you talk about being a complete team, maybe the coaching staff needs to figure out how to get these guys going and motivate. Right. Like, you can't just be Miami and assume, oh, we brought in better people than Manny Diaz and company, so we're magically going to make things work. Like, no, you still got to put in the effort. And I think when you listen to Mario Cristobal, you know that the discipline is there. You know that they want to be great. You know that they're not doing any shenanigans, but at the end of the day, you got to produce some results, and hopefully they give him time. But there's no such thing as patience in college football, like literally none. So everyone's of a win now mentality, and people get lucky and strike iron hot, and they have good seasons. And you look at Mike Elko, had he been losing like 5 games in a row, people be like, oh, well, see, it's Duke, blah, 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 but he's having a great one, so keep it on the rug. Mario Cristobal, on the other hand, Tony Elliott, on the other hand, having a struggle. Now it's like, okay, did we actually get it right? We maybe should, look elsewhere. How many years we're going to give him? Like, it's so dramatic.
Yep.
100%. Yep. All right, number 2.
All right, I'm going to put this one as Virginia Tech. I was debating between 2 and 1 for this one, but Virginia Tech, I mean, they had their win against Boston College where they looked really good, but overall, this team is now 2-4, 1-2 in conference. They didn't look anywhere competitive against Pitt. They're gonna have to beat Miami this week. I don't see them being all that competitive at all in the Coastal Division, and they've kind of regressed to where you expected them to be. You expected going into the season that Virginia Tech would be kind of in the middle, and that's where they've fallen towards. And I think that's what we want, what you expected. And that's not a knock on their new head coach. That's not a knock on Grant Wells. That's just where they're supposed to be, and it's kind of like they've regressed to where they should. They were supposed to kind of fall in the overall ACC pecking order.
Absolutely. And at the end of the day, right now, as it stands, Virginia Tech matchup at the end of the season is going to be each other's Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah.
It absolutely is going to be that game where, barring the season, it'll mean nothing if you don't win that matchup, or if, after a first year, 2 new head coaches, everyone knows, if you want to have a vote of confidence going into next season, you win that one. So there's a lot of pressure it seems to be building up for that end of season rivalry game. All right, number 1.
All right, the right on the edge, I'm going to put Boston College. And I mean, what hasn't been said about this team? It's one of the most disappointing teams in college football this season. FPI on ESPN has them as a 1.5% chance of making the college football bowl season, which is depressing as all hell. If you want to listen to me on today's show as well, I'm going to be talking about whether BC should move on from Jeff Hafley. That's where things are at right now. Yeah. We're in a bye week, and they've got 6 weeks to go. And I think the thing with BC, you saw it against Clemson. They played tough, and it was just they didn't have enough bullets in the chamber against Clemson, and Clemson they had the dudes, and they pulled away in that second half. Can they continue to improve? Because the season does get a little easier for them. They've got. I mean, you look at the games and you're like, oh, how's that easier? But Wake Forest hard, but their defense, BC's defense plays pretty well. Can they score against that defense?
Yeah.
NC State could be without Devin Leary. Wake Forest is kind of a mess. I'm still not all in on Syracuse, though my ratings will not say that. Duke, again, I think that's a winnable game. UConn, and that's it. So, I mean, getting some nice wins to end the year could be a nice way to end this. But if they fall apart, you're going into 2023 without Zay Flowers, probably without Phil Dracovic, because he has one more year left, and I'm still not sure what's going to happen there. And the possibility that if BC does not figure this out, Jeff Hafley, the coach that many people thought would be so good that BC couldn't hold on to them, he could be on the hot seat, and it's getting hot there for him.
And that's crazy because he was the new flashy hot toy that we were like, yes, let's see how it goes. We're feeling good about him. And now it can turn so quick. But you put your future in the hands of 18 and 22-year-olds. It's kind of like the name of the game, truly. And I think Phil, it will all depend on who they bring back from offensive line standpoint. It ain't like just another year older. Who are you going to get at transfer portal? Because clearly
that's a big issue for BC, because Hafley's gone out there and said, that NIL stuff, it's hitting the offensive line in the transfer portal piece really hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've heard something on the lines of offensive linemen on the transfer portal are somewhere around $100,000 a piece. And BC has 0 NIL programs. So part of me wonders how frustrated Hafley must be with the lack of institutional support he gets from that. But that's where BC's
Are they just not interested in it, or what's that deal?
I don't know. I don't know what's going on.
They're part of the non-regulation team because they're, there's a couple people that are just like willy-nilly out here. But it's amazing that there's nothing in place that you would try, especially in a city like Boston.
And you have rich alumni that want to spend it, and BC charges. They have donor-based seating. So my thought has always been funnel that towards the players instead, and you're all set. But that's me.
1,000% agree. All right, guys, we're going to talk a little more about some of the ranks and reads that we have here for you. But first, these days, every new potential hire can feel like a high stakes wager for your small businesses. You have to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. It helps you find the right people for your team for faster and for free. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates fast. And not only that, they make sure that you are a priority in getting what you need from a support standpoint. If you just go to linkedin.com/lockedoncollege, you will be all set. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Well, there it is. We're rocking and rolling with AJ Black of Locked On Boston College. Say that 3 times fast. We are going over reads and rankings here on our weekly Wednesday show. And we're going to pause here because we have my friend Willie Thomas, who gave us his good, bad, and ugly that we do every Monday and Tuesday. I want you to hear these, and I want to get your thoughts, AJ. So the good was that Clemson fought off another slow start to remain the darling of the conference. Do you think that Clemson is the darling of the conference still?
I mean, yeah. I don't. They got DJ Uiagalelei look as good as a quarterback as what you need to make the playoffs and to cause some trouble. I mean, that guy can throw. Like, he's gone from serious issues to really humming, and now they're gonna have. I think I saw today. They're gonna have a full defensive line for the first time in like 2 seasons. Xavier Thomas is healthy. Brian Breesy's back. You get all those guys back. Did you see Xavier Thomas's line against BC? He had 6 snaps and 2 sacks. Dude was
sorry.
and that's I don't know if that's an indication of how well he's playing or how poor BC is, but he went from 300 pounds to 245 pounds of pure muscle now.
Yeah.
Clemson isn't the sexiest team on the planet right now because they don't have like the skill players that maybe like Alabama has. But when you get into the trenches, especially on that defensive side of the ball, they're a scary team to be a tough out.
I think for all the people that were so afraid of what it would be like without Brent Venables, especially with how it's going at Oklahoma right now, like he wasn't the sole piece. Clemson is Clemson. Like we can just say like Clemson defense will always stand true no matter the coach. And of course, Dabo Swinney has the system, all the things, but he has established a machine there to which is kind of giving like Nick Saban. It doesn't matter who comes and goes and who funnels in and out. They're going to be fine.
Right.
And so we also have – go ahead.
No, Dabo has put together a system, and I think it was right to be skeptical of that because, like, you want to sometimes get fresh blood in there, but at least on both sides of the ball right now, they're looking like he had the faith in his guys that have come up with working with his other guy, with Venables and Tony Elliott, and they're looking like the kind of coordinators that Clemson needs.
Yeah, 100%. The bad that Willie Thomas from our YouTube friend said, the bad is the gloomy outlook of NC State's season with a quarterback that can't throw. Mr. Chambers did everything he could, but my Lord, I don't know what it says worse. Does it say worse for Florida State that you couldn't like figure out how to win against a quarterback that couldn't throw? Like he threw 1 pass for -5 yards. Or does it say it for NC State, the heart of that defense, like we're just talking about, really has stayed true and stood up when it really had to in big ways throughout the season so far?
Yeah, I mean, it could have been more the novelty of a backup quarterback. Sometimes when you get one thrown out there that defenses haven't schemed against, it can throw them off, right? Especially someone so completely different than Devin Leary.
But the man was terrible. After a while, doesn't that give you confidence? No, okay, maybe not.
I guess. But then now coaches are going to be able to watch his film and go, okay, this kid can't throw. Here's what we're going to do to him. And that causes a whole other problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We're not going to have a Benaconda out there, but Jordan Houston is certainly going to have to figure out how to get things going. And Demi Sumo is going to have a that run game is going to have to, grow a notch there for NC State.
Yep. It's got to it's got to go to another level if they're going to continue winning.
1,000%. If you guys have not tried Built Bar Puffs yet, you're just depriving yourself of one of life's greatest joys. Let me introduce you to Cookie Dough Chunk Puffs. They have 100% covered in chocolate chewy texture and goodness, real cookie dough chunks, and of course, they are good for you. Like all Built Bars, the Cookie Dough Chunk Puff is covered in 100% real chocolate, and it gives you that quick deliciousness when you want a little extra protein, the collagen protein, which absorbs more efficiently and provides tons of healthy benefits. Eat something that tastes good and is good for you. And you're going to love cookie dough chunk puff, whether you need a snack for your workout, a late night treat, or just a quick bite to eat. You should make sure to grab a Built bar. Go to built.com, use promo code LOCKEDON15 and get 15% off your order. Again, using promo code LOCK15. AJ Black here, Locked On Boston College podcast. Each and every day he talks about the Eagles. Now, the best teams, the teams that are doing the damn thing. Top 5. Number 5, who we got?
All right. So number 5 for me is going to be North Carolina.
Okay.
I am not going all Atlantic this time. I promise you. I was going to change things up.
Love it. Love it.
They've done what they needed to do, and this is the perfect time for me to buy back in on the Tar Heels so that they can make me regret every second of it. And it's the perfect week for this to happen because they're playing Duke.
Yeah.
So you know what's going to happen.
I literally, as you're saying this, I'm like, well, there goes, the neighborhood. We definitely were leading a coastal conference right now. It won't be like that when AJ puts them on the docket.
Yep.
Thank you.
They're a 7-point favorite playing on the road at Duke. So Duke is going to grind the ball out and end up winning this game. But it doesn't matter for you, Candace, because I saw on Twitter someone was saying you're a Duke fan. So
hello, I am just all team Duke. I don't know why anyone thinks otherwise. Like, if anything, that gave me like full confidence that I'm doing a great job on the show, that people buy into what the hell I'm saying. And like, I'm pretty biased, like unbiased, excuse me. Like, I'm pretty much you never know. I can hype up anybody. I can make you a believer out of the Boston College Eagles. I can make you a believer out of Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. Like, if you truly in your heart of hearts think I am all in on Duke Blue Devils, I love that for me. That lets me know I'm doing my job.
Yeah, and I think it's a future week conversation, but I want to hear what your thoughts are on Earl Grant moving in this year. But
I love.
We're talking football right now. He's my man right now. So I'm really excited about that.
And we'll definitely talk next week and recap the college tip-off that's happening today and all the things and exciting about men's and women's college basketball. I think it's going to be a fun time for sure. But, overall, listen, Duke is great, but I think Drake May is having one hell of a season, and I certainly think they've earned that top 5 spot here.
Absolutely.
In our weekly rankings.
Yep.
All right, number 4.
NC State. And just like you said, they grinded out a nice win against Florida State. So I have to give them credit for that. And that was a nice win. To be able to hold Jordan Travis and that defense to just 17 points is quite the feat. Yeah. But I just have to, I look at them and I have to say, like, how long are they going to be able to hold this on? And this week is, again, like, the ACC is so much fun this year with the matchups that we get every week. It makes this podcast so interesting to talk about, because this week you get another top 20 matchup between NC State and Syracuse, which to me is a perfect blend of, will NC State be able to move on past Devin Leary for at least this week, because Syracuse is good.
Yeah,
very good. They're playing at home. It's the Syracuse has had 2 top 20 teams at home since 2001 when Syracuse played Boston College in the Big East. I'm not going to talk about who won that game. And I think this is going to be a great game to really find out. Again, we're getting the pretenders versus contenders in this conference.
That's a good point.
And I'm not sure. I kind of want to go with Syracuse on this because they're coming up next on my list, but it could go either way. It's going to be, just a fun game. Just one of those ones you're just going to want to make sure you have on. I wish it was on at prime time. 3:30 starts kind of lame, but.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that Syracuse, this is going to be the game where we say, hey, are you guys frauds? Are you not as advertised? Or NC State, as much as we want you to be in the dogfight, we're going to let you bounce back from that Clemson loss. If you can't figure out how to win, after beating Florida State and keep that train rolling, because, there still is a mathematical chance that you could win the ACC Atlantic Division, then I'm going to be mad at you too. So it's going to be one of the better matchups. I think when you think about Garrett Schrader and Chambers and going up against each other, Garrett certainly has a nod, but Sean Tucker is going to be that X factor to me. Will they be able to swallow him up in the backfield? That defense absolutely could. So it could be a long day. It could be a lot of special teams action to come down to Chris Dunn and Mr. Yep. I think it's Schmitz. I don't know. It's the one with no
vowels in that name. Yeah, sure. Yep.
Yeah, so it's going to be a good one. All right, number 3.
So that would be Syracuse for me.
Okay.
And I'm putting Syracuse here ahead of NC State because they're undefeated. But my bigger question about Syracuse right now is they haven't played anyone yet. I mean, they played Purdue, I guess. They're 4-2. They beat
Yeah.
Louisville, UConn, and UVA and Wagner, other than that.
Yeah.
And that's a bad group of teams. And I don't know. I want to see they need to continue to show me. And I'm not, this is not, again, they're number 3 on my power ranking, so I'm not hating on Syracuse right now. But I want to see them take the next step. And this is the perfect chance for them to do that. They're at home. They get NC State without Devin Leary. Can they take that next step and win again? And go to 6-0, which is insane. That's nuts. Again, I feel like I'm a broken record with Syracuse, but like the fact that this team, a team that I thought would be without, Dino Babers by the end of the season, is now undefeated is crazy. And the fact that they were like in talks for potentially having a college game day there, which they've never had at Syracuse, because I'm BC fan here, I'm going to take a step back and not rip on the fact that they play at a dome that's in the middle of nowhere. Okay. But anyways, it's a big week for them. It's a big week for Syracuse. Can they do it? And I think they can. I think that it's a potential for a top 25 win that'll shut up the haters, that'll shut up the doubters, and get them on track to again be a powerhouse going into the end of the season.
I think if NC State loses, it'll be a significant drop in the rankings because, as you mentioned, Syracuse technically hasn't, quote unquote, played anybody worth a damn. So it would really hurt NC State to lose this matchup. And I think it'll speak volumes and definitely put Coach Dino Babers in the number 1 spot for Coach of the Year if they're able to pull this one off, because the way he's been able to turn this season around and battling injuries and all the things, it's been nice to, fresh change for sure.
Yep.
All right, number 2
is the Wake Forest Demon Deacons.
Okay. They figured it out how to beat the Army, which was great.
Yeah. They didn't allow 85 points like they did last year or whatever that was, 55.
The same thing, yeah.
But I mean, that just shows the progression that the team has made, right? They let up 10
100%.
points against Army this year. They are a well-balanced team, and they get a bye week this week, and then they get to play Boston College next week, which should be an easy win for them. Mm-hmm. Ouch. But they're in good shape. When you have A.T. Perry, that the offense that they have that's going, and the defense is starting to show that they can do what they do. You look at the end of their schedule, and they've got Louisville, BC, NC State, who maybe Devin Leary will be back. I honestly don't think it matters. The big game that they have left is Louisville, is UNC in Syracuse.
Yeah,
it's not an easy end of the slate for Wake Forest, but the way that they're playing, I don't think it honestly matters. They've already played Clemson, and there's no one else on that roster on that schedule that I think is anywhere near that level.
Yeah, I think you just finish out your season and hope for the best, and hope things kind of shake things up towards the end, and hope that Clemson, you get a little help from whoever is going to face Clemson, essentially.
Yep.
So there's that. Number 1 team, I'm assuming, would be the Tigers, but I'll take it away.
Yep. I want to give a shout out to Phil Jakovic right now, who hopefully is resting up his wounds after last week. Clemson's defense I felt like didn't have their pedal to the metal that first half. And then they decided, you know what, screw it. Let's just start blitzing the hell out of him. Yeah. And once they started putting that pressure on, BC had no answer to anything they could do. And I think it all boiled down to, it was in like the late third quarter. Jakovic went back to pass. BC's offensive lineman whiffed on a block, and he just got plastered into. I've never seen him get hit so hard.
Yeah.
And he fumbled it, and they gave it up at like the 10-yard line. But that's just like indicative of where this Clemson defense is. Mm-hmm. They were at such a high level in that game, and they played so well. And so, I think they're the best team in the ACC. It's not even close. They're back to where they need to be. And while I'm talking about Clemson, I want to give a special shout out as well to Dabo Swinney, who decided late into the fourth quarter that, you know what, we're up 24-0 and BC can't do anything. And I'm going to take DJ out and I'm going to put him back in after Cade Klubnik can't throw 2 complete passes to run up the score against BC because he's that kind of coach. I thought it was really classy on his part, especially because he decided to go no huddle and go tempo against BC, which really pissed off Jeff Hafley because I've completely lost it, Candace. I'm going to get thrashed in the comments, but like, if you're going to beat them with your offense, that's fine. But if you're going to go no huddle and put your starter back in to get points, Dabo, you lost some style points with me.
It's a little disheartening for sure. And I think honestly, you beat it with a dead horse. We get it. You know, you're winning. Let it go. But it's on brand for sure. But hopefully, it's motivation for whoever sees them next and all the things, and understands that Dabo and company don't care who's in front of them. They just want to beat whatever, and they're going to beat you to a pulp, and don't beat a team that gets beat to a pulp. And so I 100% get it.
Yeah, no, I get that too. Like, before folks get into the comment section and say, AJ, like, if you don't like it, stop it.
No, yeah.
It wasn't that. It was the fact that he put his starter back in and then ran tempo, which gets your guys hurt more often. That's more of my issue. That's it. Sorry.
Very clear. Not a Dabo fan over here. So you're preaching to the very direct choir. I've been loving, I wanted so badly for NC State to beat Clemson. I wanted so badly for my alma mater, like Wake Forest, to beat Clemson. But, for whatever reason, it ain't happening. But pretty soon, sometime, whatever, you got to take down the king. You got to figure out how to do it. And eventually someone will. And that's all good stuff. AJ, it's always a pleasure to have you here on the show. Can you please remind these folks where they can find you, follow your work?
Yes. So I'm going to ask you folks, if you're listening to this podcast, go find me on YouTube. I am trying to get more YouTube followers. Go to YouTube and look up Locked On Boston College. Hit the subscribe button. Find my latest video and tell me I'm a stupid idiot. I don't care. I have Rutgers fans in there. I've got Clemson fans. I love to talk to you guys, and I will respond back to you. I promise you that. Go there. You can follow me on Twitter at AJBlack_BC. I'm also the editor and publisher of Eagle Insider, part of the 247 Sports Network.
No doubt. Guys, come back tomorrow. We will have Jersey Drake in the building as we talk. Actually, sorry, already got ahead of myself. I was really excited about Friday. Can you tell? We will have Thursday with Alex Dono, where we talk about trap games. We only got 4 of them, but crazier things could happen when it comes to the ACC. For Candace Cooper and AJ Black, until next time.